Tina, welcome to the podcast. Lovely to talk to you.
Hello, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So Tina, talk to me. How can you help people create their dream life?
The thing is that I think that everyone has big dreams and everyone is trying to make them come true in some way. But on that way to that dream life, there are obstacles and there are hurdles and there are things that make people stop, and if it's just in their head, it doesn't mean that there is an actual obstacle in the way, but sometimes it's like the what if thought. That's a very, very big obstacle. What if I cannot make it? What if I'm not good enough? And it's not always conscious. Sometimes it even happens that our mind tells us like, but I don't have time today. Maybe let's better start next week. So for diets, that's something very common I heard. So, and I think that the most important thing is at the beginning to really identify what's the obstacle. What is really holding me back? I mean, if the person already knows what they want, some have very big dreams, but don't know yet the direction, then we search for that as well. But I think the most important thing is to identify what's the obstacle, what is really holding you back. And then we need to get rid of this. Like the obstacle needs to like magically disappear because then the way gets straight. And then it's much more likely that people say like, oh yeah, I mean, now the obstacle is gone. Now I can. And they do. And I think it's beautiful.
How much do you feel that the obstacle is in someone's head?
I think it's 99%. I mean, there's sometimes there are obstacles like, that you may have been born in a very difficult situation and it's not that easy, but it's not that easy doesn't mean it's impossible. So if you don't have that obstacle in your mind that it's not possible, you'll find a way. For 99%, I mean, maybe you cannot be Mr. World at 99 years old. Maybe that's too late. I don't know. I'm not judging. Maybe it's worth a try if it's the big dream. But when you're like in your 20s or something and you have that dream, that normally you can make it possible in some way.
I think what's really interesting about this whole conversation is just that a lot of people's dreams are achievable just by simply starting. But why do you feel, because there's a whole narrative in social media around the words just start, like Gary Vaynerchuk, he often talks about this, like just start and then see where you get to. Why do you feel people procrastinate on whatever it is that they want to achieve and fail to even start?
I think there's one big thing, and just start means normally people don't have steps. Like, they have this big goal is somewhere there. We're very, very far away from them. And they're here and they feel so small. And the goal is so big. And then it feels like, how can I, like this little person, achieve this big goal? And they don't have like the way to the goal. It's not figured out yet. They haven't broken it down. They have absolute no clarity on what they need to do. And taking the first step when it's like you just jump into a big sea and you don't know how deep it is, that's what's scary. When you know the water is just like until your ankles, you're gonna go there. It's not gonna be like scary or anything. But the problem is because you have all this way and nothing of this way is figured out. And because of that, because you're blind basically about your first step. And this is why it's so hard to take it, because it really feels like jumping into the nowhere. So if you just try to figure it out in a little bit, like tinier steps, then it suddenly becomes more achievable because it's not so overwhelming and not so big anymore. Because, like I said it a lot to my clients, if I want to get like 1,000 clients, that's a huge number. If I say like, okay, I make 3 calls a day, that's achievable even with a normal job, right? So, and this is what I mean when I say like break it down into little steps, because, well, I mean, 1,003 calls, suddenly it gets manageable and suddenly you can take the first step. So I think this is a very good advice for people.
It's great. I love that. It's a little bit, because I've read James Clear's Atomic Habits, and I'm a big fan of that book. And he often talks about, if you decide that you want to get into shape and then you buy an expensive gym membership, you sign up for 12 months, you want to go 5 days a week, really quickly, you won't be using that gym membership. But actually, if you start smaller than that by simply saying, okay, tomorrow I want to do some exercise, but you start off by today, I'm just going to put on some trainers. The next day you go for a 2-minute walk. And then the next day you go for a 4-minute walk. and then you slowly build up. It's almost, the steps are almost so inconceivably easy that people will be like, well, of course I can do that. Of course I can. Of course I can take these tiny, tiny, tiny little steps. But there still can be lots of fear that's sat around it. Why do you feel people like are fearful of making those steps?
Because, especially when you communicate this as being your big dream and then you fail and you don't manage to achieve this dream, then you don't want to be in the audience, like in the people around you, and say like, well, I failed. That's so painful, but not just for people around you. I mean, looking at yourself and knowing this is your big dream, but you failed. That's so painful. And I think for some people, it's difficult to just imagine. And before imagining that, because making a step means there is a possibility that that might happen. And I'm not saying that it will continuously happen, but the way to whatever goal you're going to proceed to is not easy. I mean, this is the other thing. Like sometimes people make a tiny little step and then they fail, something happens, they go, oh no, that's too difficult. So the journey from where you are to your goal is not simple. And I mean, honestly, I don't know whoever you ask. You can ask Elon Musk or Warren Buffett, me, whoever. We all struggle at some point. It's not like that's easy journey. All of us, like, I don't know if everyone has cried. I have cried, but for sure, because it was difficult. And I was at a point where I thought like, I have no idea how I will proceed from here. But then again, it's the same procedure that we started from. Like, take the next tiny little step. The thing is not, you don't need to jump. Sometimes you even need a break because sometimes you have been too fast. Like life didn't catch up with you. But don't stop. Rest, but don't stop. So I know it sounds so super easy, but when you look at it, because I'm coming from sports, and I was thinking about that actually this morning, and I liked it very much. Like when you are in sports and you do something like racing, it's 3, 2, 1, go. And no one asks you if you're prepared at the go. Like, are you like, did you forget something at home, or does something hurt, or is your mind yet in this? You have to get rid of all this before you get to go to the start box. And when it's go, you go. You don't question, you just do it. And I think this is some mindset that we can learn from athletes, because they don't question. And the moment when it's time to go, they go. And this is the moment when a lot of people are like, but what? No, there's no question left. Now it's to go, and now you go. And then on the way, that's what athletes do. Like when I was in the start box and that's not my moment, because I felt like my mind was going somewhere else, and that happened, obviously. I needed to figure it out on the way. Like I needed to do like the first turn, and in this turn, find myself back to myself so I can really go give 100%. Maybe there was a day when I couldn't give 100%. Also, that happens. But I was on my way, and there was no way back other than upwards. With there's nowhere that is not possible. So, and I think this is a thing that everybody can adapt to their own life. It doesn't matter how far you go, how fast you go, but go.
When you think about your journey, what are the pain and the struggles that you've had to work your way through at the very beginning?
Whoa, what journey are we talking about? There are so many. Um, I mean, I think I can now say like there was this accident happening in my life, and I had to overcome this, because it's true. Like I had a big accident in snowboarding, for example. I was almost paralyzed. The doctor said he doesn't know if I will ever walk again. So, but I can tell you a lot of these circumstances. But in the end, it comes back to how do I deal with the circumstance? So it's back to my mind. And I'm not saying that I was at the age of 22, like in the super great mindset. I didn't have it. I was just fortunate that I didn't like the doctor in some ways. So I learned from not knowing but doing it, because I didn't like the doctor. So I didn't like the advice, and I didn't take it for serious. He said, you might not be able to walk again. I don't accept this. And another doctor just told me like, I got this. It didn't say like, I will walk again, nothing. I got this. I've heard you will walk. And this is the mindset that I adapted in this moment. And looking back many times in my life, I think this is the mindset that helped me push through the situations. Like, I think this is the undeniable belief that there is no other outcome than what I want it to be. Like, I think this is one of my greatest strengths, that in moment of doubt, I decide to choose me, to choose the result that I want. I really would say I choose to only believe this and nothing else. And I would never ever say, I'm stopping before I have at least a way that can lead me to the result. So, for example, when we go to an injury, if someone would have said me something that is not positive and that is not my result, I would have consulted a million other people until one that told me it's possible. And I would have followed this advice until the very end, because this is what I wanted. And I would not stop before I have someone or have myself set up for the result that I want.
Wow. That sounds like a really challenging, painful time to have gone through that. When you were hearing the words, "You may never walk again," what was going through your mind?
I think I was completely in rejection in that moment. You know, the reason for that was I needed to go to the toilet and he didn't let me. And for me, that was not human. So, like a doctor that doesn't let the patient go to the toilet when they come from a slope, like where it's cold and you're freezing and you want to go to the toilet, and he didn't let me. I was like, no, I just don't believe it. I really rejected it completely. I might have had a little like, but then something in me said like, nope, not from this person.
That's incredible. What you're talking about is having unwavering self-belief. Do you feel like you've had to cultivate? Have you had to build that mindset, or do you feel like it's something that you've been naturally gifted with? Do you feel like you can build it? Where do you feel you are with that?
I'm not naturally gifted with that. Absolutely not. What I am gifted is with the will to push through until it happens. This is something that I am gifted with, or maybe I developed it. I don't know. Maybe it was just the situation that created that in me, because also like sports told me or taught me that everything is possible. And like I had my ligament ripped and they put some bandage on it, like, like tapes. And then they put me in the shoe and they put me to a race. I was like, okay, I wasn't, I didn't know that would work. I thought I was injured and I couldn't walk for 3 weeks. No, you cannot walk. You shouldn't, but you can go in the snowboard boot. Okay, all right, I'm gonna do that. So I think the sports time, it broke many unsupportive beliefs in what is possible if you really believe in it and when you're doing it. And I think from that time, I just took this mindset that I just don't believe that it's not true or that it's not possible. I just don't believe it unless I have tried everything. But for believing in myself, I was just like everyone else, I think. Like I had a lot of self-doubts. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I was, maybe I thought even I was inferior to others. So I had to learn that too. But what supported me all the time was the thought, it is possible and I'm not going to stop until I have it. So this was basically what created this journey of me creating my dream life, or doing something different, or just not stopping, just not giving up anytime, ever.
I love that. I love the level of fearless self-belief that you've got, is that you're going to make it. But when you're working and you're coaching people and they're trying to define their dream life, but it seems too far out of reach and they're not sure and it's a long journey and risk of failure and all of those sorts of things, and they don't have the evidence yet and they don't have that unwavering self-belief that maybe that you've been able to build. How can you help someone like build that self-belief?
I think this is very, very hard, especially for people that come from a depression or something like this. I've seen this and it's really hard. I mean, you have to be patient with these people. They cannot do it from one day to the other, or maybe they could, but they're not yet in the mindset. So it's about creating the little happiness moments because this is something that they suffer sometimes. So it's like, really, I think you have a burnout or something, and there is no happiness left. For many people, this is relatable. It's like everything is drained. And then you have to just step by step in these little moments where you feel that life is good. And it starts by, I don't know, taking a walk if this is what you want to do, or not necessarily watching your favorite TV show because this is like distracting you. But like, do things that are not mentally disconnecting you, but connecting you to yourself, and feel yourself for the first time for a long time, maybe that it's possible for you to feel happiness, and even it's just a little bit. And then when you come home at night and you feel fulfilled, not distracted, but you feel this peace in yourself that you have done something nice and or good for you. And I think this is the first step. So as I said before, it's about 20 little steps. It's not doing the whole way in one day, and it's not important, especially if you have a long way to go and you have forgotten what happiness really means to you. Then the first thing that you have to do is discover it back, because that already makes such a huge shift in your life. And when you have achieved, like, having moments of happiness in your life, this is like, you feel it, that something shifted, then from there you will develop the belief that more is possible, because there was some time when you didn't even believe that that was possible. So now you have these moments. Why shouldn't it even get better when you were able to do that and you didn't believe? So, and I think from there, it's just like building on it until you're able to do the first real step towards your goal.
It's interesting. It's really interesting what you're sharing there, because quite often there is a mindset, maybe a fixed mindset, where people say, well, I'll be happy when I get the thing, whatever it is I'm trying to achieve. But what you're actually saying is the counter to that, which is, let's start with finding moments of happiness and joy. Because if you start from that place, you're far more likely to achieve the bigger dream.
Yes, I think there is also, I connect a lot to sports, but I had a big moment in my sports life when I was thinking of a race that I wanted to win. I thought that would be a game changer for me, and I won it. And then I was sitting in my car, this goblet was sitting next to me, and I was like, okay, if this is what happiness feels, that's not enough for me, because I wasn't happy. I felt like nothing changed. And this is what happens for many people. Like, even if they have reached whatever they wanted to reach in their life, but sometimes they don't feel the happiness. But the happiness is not something that you attain when you reach something. It's something that you create in yourself. So it's like when you walk and you want to go to the top of the mountain, and just reaching across is your goal and nothing else is important, then you miss out on so many beautiful things, like, the stones and the flowers, and maybe the view that you have. There's so many things that you can enjoy on this way. And the goal is also beautiful, but it's the whole way to arrive at the goal that you need to, like, life is always now, and you cannot live now happy for a moment that arrives in the future. It's not possible. So if you're not making the most out of now, like, then you miss your life, because reaching a goal is like 1 minute and then it's gone again. Then you've reached it and you have to go to the next goal. And let's imagine, like, you have 10 big goals in your life and then you're going to have 10 minutes of happiness. That doesn't sound so cool to me, at least. So I think the most important thing is to learn to be happy on the way. I'm not saying that the goal is then that much of a shift in your happiness, but hey, if I'm happy all the time, then I reach the goal. It's suddenly something to celebrate, and then I can still be happy. So I think that's better.
I love that. I love that. It's so interesting. When you're thinking about setting goals, like, and defining what that dream life looks like, how do you go about that? Like, is there a framework that you follow? Do you think about vision boards? What does that look like when you work with someone?
That depends on the personality and how these people operate. Like, if this is a visual person, an auditive person, a cognitive person, so it depends. For many people, vision boards work really good. For me personally, they don't. So I don't have a vision board. For me, it's like feeling it. But I think this is I create an overall experience. So whatever this person is, I think the most important thing is even you have this beautiful picture, you need to feel yourself being in the situation. It's a kind of a manifestation thing. Like, if you don't know how it feels, then the emotional connect to this isn't strong enough to really make it happen. So I think a very great advice is sometimes how would you act if you had it already? But if you answer this question for yourself, you need to know how you feel in this situation to give yourself the best advice. So if you just imagine yourself, like, I don't know, being a winner or being the boss of a company or anything, and you have not felt how it is or how it would feel. And like, I mean, when I say that, I mean, really imagine it into detail. Like if you imagine yourself being the owner of a big company, you need to imagine also that it can be stressful, that you have to deal with a lot of people, like your people working for you or the clients or whatever it is. So it is the whole picture, and get yourself into the whole picture. And then first of all, do you really want to be that person when you feel how it looks like in this situation? Because, winning something or being the big boss, it sounds good. But being the big boss, it's still a little difficult. And there is a long way. So now when I imagine myself being in this role, I always know how far and how difficult the way was. Do I still want this? And if the answer to this is yes, then what would I advise myself now? And if I imagine myself being the big boss, for example, let's say Apple or something, then the advice that I would have for myself was like, be super patient. It's not going to happen overnight. And this is what people don't think about. They think like, oh, they would say, no, no, no. No, they wouldn't. They would say like, enjoy your life and do what needs to be done. Never give up, but be patient. There will be mistakes. There will be setbacks. And that's just normal part of the way. And so I think if you're really taking the whole picture with vision boards, with what you would say in that situation, with how you would feel, which responsibilities you will have, and. If you have this picture, then you're a really good advisor for yourself.
Love that. It's interesting what you're saying. It's about the long term, because I remember Tony Robbins said a wonderful quote, which was, people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. And I think about that a lot, because when you're on a journey, whatever it is that you're going to try to achieve, because if it's your dream, it's hard and it's going to take a long time, and you're going to have to be patient, and you're going to have to push through on the really difficult days and turn up on the really bad days. So nothing ever great happens quickly. So you really have to decide the long-term journey that you want to go after.
Yes. And especially at the beginning, it's going to be much tougher than it's going to be once you succeeded a little bit. Like they say, the first million is the most difficult. After that, it gets easy. But it's true, because I think the first sale that you do is the most difficult one, because no one knows you. No one cares about you. So finding someone who cares about you gives you a little bit, at least the idea that, hey, I can like serve someone. I can really help someone. I am needed. But before that moment, you might be like, maybe no one's needing my product at all. Might think that. So the first sale, super difficult. First million, super difficult. After that, well, you are needed. You can do it. So replicate it. Just do it again. But at the beginning, it's super, like, this is why many people think like, okay, I'm starting, they're full of this energy, and think like in the first year, I'm going to crush it. But they don't understand that it's difficult to start from zero. Because like, for example, if you want to start an online business or something, no one in the world knows you. No one. So you already have to make yourself known. You have to put yourself out there. You have to risk being criticized, and you have to overcome all of this. But once you established this base, it's getting easier. So in the first year, yes, you overestimate what you can do, but then you underestimate. Probably because you have seen the first year how difficult it was.
Yeah, it's so true, because I think about I speak to a lot of creators, and some of those are at the very beginning of their journey, and they're like, not too sure about posting on this or posting about that. And it's like, do you know what? Now's the best time you can possibly post because no one's listening. So you need to get over your fear. And I had it as well. I had a massive fear even just 12 months ago around Instagram. And I thought, well, why do I have a fear around this? I shouldn't really have it. Anyway, I just was like, right, I'm going to commit to 3 posts a day and just get stuff out there. Got to about 500 posts and suddenly the fear had gone. I was like, oh, and by the way, no one even noticed I was posting.
Exactly. That's the thing. When people don't know you, you can post like whatever you want. People don't know. Like the 3, 4, 5, or 50 followers that you have when you start. Like, what's going to happen? Nothing. And you can delete them even after that, right? So nothing's going to happen. Try yourself in this moment fearlessly. So
Yeah.
Tony Robbins now makes a post that isn't so good, people know about it.
And also, there's so much competition online with posting, whether doesn't matter what platform you're on, that, the prize is your attention, and people's attentions last for 2 or 3 seconds. If it's not relevant to them, they just move on. So it's like, the chance of you failing is 100% you're going to fail, like in that type of arena at the very beginning, which is beautiful and brilliant because it should be freeing that you can just then go, it doesn't really matter. I might as well just start now because I can do 20 posts. No one's going to notice them, like them, whatever. Yeah, you might get a few comments from your friends. Oh, you're posting on that. Yeah, I am. Crack on. Like just because eventually you get to the point where you literally just don't care. And I think that's that's the opposite to I'm nervous about starting. I'm nervous about starting. And I procrastinated to do this podcast for years. And now I look back and go, that was just time wasted. I could have been doing this years before, but what was I afraid of? Don't know. As soon as you're into it, you're like, oh, we'll just crack on. Like, so it is mad that in our heads we have some sort of fear. And what do you think the psychology is of the fear? Like, what is it that's holding us back in our minds? Is it the fear of what? The fear of failure, the fear of looking silly, the fear of, don't know.
That's difficult or difficult to say because it's something different for everyone. But if you want to really like nail it down to one point, I would say it's the fear of not being loved. Because it doesn't matter if you fear failure or if you're feeling not succeeding or not being enough or whatever. The thing is, you want to be loved. If you put yourself out there, you want people to cheer you, want people to say, that's good what you do. And the fear of this judgment, and this judgment maybe being negative, this is the thing that holds people back. Really the most of everything, of every other reason. This is the reason that is, for me, it's the most significant.
Okay, interesting. When people come to you, what sort of things, when you're looking at defining someone's dream life, what sort of things are they coming to you with? Like, what sort of dreams do they have? Do you find people have got a particular interest, or is it quite broad? Like,
It depends. For some, it's escaping toxic relationships. Sometimes
okay,
this is a big thing for people. Like, they're absolutely not happy the relationship is toxic, but they have been set up in the mindset where leaving is dangerous for them. So this is one thing. But mostly I have people like wanting to break free from their job, creating their dream life or creating their financial freedom or their own companies and something like that, and stuck with this. So it's the thing that I hear most is success in business things.
interesting. Let's talk about that because that's an interesting topic. I know a lot. I'm in that situation, and also a lot of the people that follow and listen are also in that similar situation. So if you're in that job, you're trying to break free. What are the steps? What would you recommend?
Well, the first thing is you need to figure out what do you want to do, like not just a dream, but make it like real. Do you really want to do this? Find really out what is. I mean, it doesn't matter if now you say something and then it turns out to be different in the future. But now we have to find like something to start at. And then we have to break it down into very little steps. Like, for example, I had a client and he wanted to leave his job. He didn't like it. He wanted to found his company and wanted to get financially free in a year. That was the setup when he came. And I was like, okay, let's try this and let's do this. And for him, the most the biggest obstacle was not having this income, like coming in like monthly. He was so scared of losing this income. He didn't like the job. He didn't want to go there, but losing this income, and this is something that I experience a lot, that is deadly for people. So I said, like, okay, well, you don't have to quit the job today. Just let's start the other thing, like beside your job. Make this work, and then, get a little confidence, and then you can leave your job. And so at the beginning, he was even a little bit resistant to doing the things that we agreed on he would do until the next coaching that we had. Because the fear was in his way, and he came up with things like, I don't have time, I don't have this. And then, like, is it a priority? That's the question, because you said in 1 year, and if you're not starting now, the year is going to get really, there's not going to be a lot of time left. And so we had some things where we have been working through, but after like 2 months, he was really like full. He was on his way. And what happened is that I think within 3-4 months, he was able to leave his job. And within 8 months, he was 1 month away of financial freedom. 9 months from where we started, he was financially free. I don't know how rich he is right now, but the year ended up by him having achieved all of his goals even faster than he thought he would.
That's incredible. That's incredible. That's incredible. That's really incredible. Just thinking about that for a second. So at the beginning, he was resistant of doing quite a lot of the tasks. And then how did you sort of motivate him to then sort of holding? Well, I'm going to say hold him accountable to kind of what his commitments were.
The accountability, like I said, if you're not doing your job, this is done. We're not working because I'm not wasting my time. So this is for accountability. This is just, this is like a real tough conversation, because sometimes tough love is also important. But the important thing is to find out, why didn't he do it? And then help him in a coaching session to overcome this, or to see it in a different way. It's a limiting belief. Normally, for example, I didn't have time is a limiting belief. Why didn't you have time? There were not so big tasks. And where's the priority? What did you do instead? And then find out what is really holding you back from like putting yourself first. I'd say, because this is my dream. And if I'm not living my dream, I'm helping someone else creating the dream. So, and if you realize that if you're not creating your own dream, you're creating someone else's dream, sometimes that is going to shock you a little bit. But that's the thing. Like, if you're working for someone, you're creating this people's dream, not your dream. So, and then after removing this obstacle, there was nothing that held him back, because he understood that this is what he has to do. And I think it was one time that after this coaching, he failed for his goals, but that was because he was waiting for someone's answer or something like that. And this person wasn't accountable to him. So that he can't change that. But I think removing obstacles, removing limiting beliefs is such awesome thing. It's really a life changer. It's a game changer for you.
I love that. That's an interesting limiting belief, isn't it? Or an interesting perspective, which is you're either building somebody else's dream or you're building your own dream. Because that's really powerful as a statement.
Yeah, but it's true. Like, it's also like people are coming to you and say, "This is so urgent. You have to do that. This is so urgent," but it's urgent for them. It's not urgent for me normally, right? So it's okay. Other people have their priorities, and I'm not saying that you should not take other people for granted, for real, and you should help them as long as you're in that job, but you shouldn't forget about them. So for me, it's like, okay, I have to do this, and I can like leave some time for someone else. That's not a problem, but I will prioritize doing my task because I'm building my life. And after I've built my life, I can help you build your life. It's like, in the airplane, they say, put the mask on yourself first before you help others. And that's the same. That's the system, how it works. Also in animals or plants even, they would take their own stuff first. They're not gonna, it's a child. It's different for like animals have children, babies, then they of course give their children. But animals are not saying like, oh, You came and you said you're hungry. Now I leave you this deer. No, they're going to eat because they know that they need that for survival. And for us humans, we don't understand. And this is something I think I never said before. We don't understand that creating our dream is a survival for us. Not a survival that we survive in the sense of being alive, but being alive with our energy, with our, spirit. Our dream keeps us vibrating, not just a life that our heart pumps, because that doesn't feel like life. So if you want to be alive, it's not enough that your body is still living. You have to consume life. You have to be fully in it. And for this, it's undismissible that we create your dream.
I'd never heard anyone talk about it like that before. Let's expand on that a bit more, because you're talking about someone living and breathing their energy being optimized. No, it's not the right word. Their energy being the maximum it possibly could be because they're living their dream life. And there's a level of self-care in here as well, which is, and also I'm just going to link it with you prioritizing, putting yourself first. Can you just expand on that a bit more? I've never heard anyone talk about it like that before.
I think there is different things that you nurture yourself. One is alimentation, like food, and something else is what you consume. Like, for example, if you learn something or if you watch television or if you read something, the people that you surround yourself with, and all of this leaves an energetic imprint. So McDonald's leaves a different energetic imprint than a fresh salad from the farmer's market. And the same is like if you surround yourself with people that complain about life, like, oh, it's not good, and I don't like this, and I don't like that. Even when I say this right now, I feel my energy is shrinking. I don't want to feel this. So if you, on the other hand, surround yourself with people that say like, okay, let's go for this. Or, I have had this thought. I have had this vision. How can we create this? Suddenly we open a space and it gets bigger and we feel like vibrating differently than when we are so negative. And I think this is the same what happens when we create our dream. Because when we are not doing this, we are not getting out of this hamster wheel of complaining. We say, well, maybe there's nothing more in life for me. Maybe I have to accept that. Or even other people say like, yeah, you can't have it all or something like that. And you believe that maybe. But that's not the truth for everyone. So why is it true for me, but not for everyone? And why are these people? They have created their dream vibrating so differently. They're radiating, and you don't hear them complain so much about not liking their life. And you might think, yeah, it's easy that they don't complain. They have all of this. But there was once a time when they didn't. So what did they do differently? And this is where I have to look at. And if I don't stop in this complaining mode and develop something else, if I don't shift myself into the other mode where I can feel myself vibrating, and this is what I'm saying, like doing things that make you happy, you vibrate differently. Your energy is different, you radiate different, and you attract other things in your life. So like when you're in love, like recently you got to, a new partner and you have the first date and you're like, this butterflies around, you vibrate differently than when you're in this, oh, will I ever find someone? And that's the same like when you start creating your dream. Suddenly you're in this opening up to the world and you have this energy of building something. And this will make you vibrate different. It will give you a different nutrition for your soul or for your energy or whatever it is. But it is elementing you, your heart, your vibration, your spirit, and in the end, your whole life. Because you will be at another level and you will just expand yourself with every step that you take.
Tina, this is amazing. I'm really enjoying this conversation. What we're talking about here? How does this sort of align into like law of attraction? If I know about law of attraction, and you're talking about the vibration and energy and that positive mental state, how much does that kind of step into law of attraction?
Well, I'm not even 100% sure if I call it the law of attraction, but it's something like when you go into a room and there are people, let's say on the right side, right side, there are people that are having a super positive conversation and are laughing and having fun. And on the left side, there are people that are, like in the bad mood and complaining. Where do you want to go? Like, where do you want to sit when you enter this room? Do you want to sit like with the happy people or with the sad people? So, and this is the thing, like, I think it's just simple as that. You feel the vibration of a person. Are they happy? Then they have a different, like, they radiate differently on the outside because maybe they just smile. Maybe it's just a little smile that they give to you. Or you see it in their face. They're not like this. They're not, and you feel this. And you are naturally attracted to that person more than to the person that is like, grumpy. That's just a natural attraction. I don't know if it's a law of attraction. I guess it is. You can, of course, call it a law, but I think it's just a very natural human thing. You want to connect with positive because that will add to your life. So if you become the source of positive, people want to connect with you. And so this is how you enable the magnetism of the law of attraction for yourself. Because when you're positive, you attract people who want positive. It's simple as that. When you think about it, like in the very short and broke down way of possibilities.
But it's true. It's absolutely true. I love that analogy and that visual. Walking into a room, you got some happy people this side, unhappy people this side. Which side of the room do you want to go to? Well, naturally, you want to join the happy people. So what you're saying really simply is just like when you follow your dreams, and I like to think of it as your authentic self. When you're following your authentic self, you do move into a more of a kind of an excited energy. You're excited about things. You're positive about things. Yeah, there's obstacles and challenges along the way, but you kind of like, well, we have to just navigate those. You just find ways of getting through them because, the journey's long. But you're right. Then you start to attract positive things, positive events, just as you're going, just because you're on the journey and therefore you collect opportunities, meet people, and it feels like, well, they were just naturally there, but actually it's you're creating that pathway forward. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
incredible.
And also I think because it's not just you creating, you yourself, you are different. You experience yourself different. You experience yourself happy. And that alone makes you just like, it pushes you to the next level just automatically because you see yourself in a different light. You see yourself in the shoes of a happy person. When you look in the mirror, you see yourself smiling. You see yourself radiating. You feel a different energy from yourself. And it's so amazing.
It
So I
is.
can't understand when people are saying like, no, it's not for me. It is for you. I'm sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you said a word a while ago, earlier when we were talking, which was manifest. So, and then you've also said some words here, which is you see yourself. So, I I I think a lot about manifestation. I meditate in the mornings. What's your view on manifestation, and can you manifest your dreams? Do you feel like that's a thing?
Well, it doesn't matter what word you use, but in the end, you manifest it anyway. When they're here, you manifested them. If you created them like with work or if you manifested them, I think it's a mixture of both because manifestation alone doesn't work. It's like with the quote that you ask God, why don't I win the lottery? And God tells you like, you have to buy the ticket, you know? So you have to do both. So manifestation without work, no. But work without like a little bit of faith, the same. No, because you're just like I can tell it for myself. But sometimes when I'm really busy and really stressed and I'm very focused on work, I have the ability to forget that I need time for myself too. And then I can lose energy, even though I know how to do it and I know how I can work. But if I have too much on the plate and it can happen, then sometimes I overwork myself and I lose energy. This is the time when I need to say, okay, I need to make a break and I need to do something for myself because in the end, what matters is the way. It's going from A to B, but enjoying the way. It's not only necessarily about the outcome. So if there is a deadline, okay, but then after the deadline, plan some time for yourself. So don't go from one deadline to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, because you forget yourself. So the whole journey, and I think this is the manifestation part, is enjoying the way. Believe that it's going to happen, but don't nail it down to it needs to happen by this and this and this date. You don't know how life works. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it takes a little longer. But if you enjoy the way, like every moment on this process of development, let's say it that way, then you're not losing time. But if you're like nailing it to this one event that is somewhere in the future, then you're losing all your life on the way to achieve this goal. And then it's like, maybe it takes 10 years, and in 10 years, you didn't have a moment for yourself. And then you wake up, you maybe have manifested or achieved this goal, but you lost all this time. And this is the thing that you cannot get back. You can get back money, you can get back goals, you can get back everything, no time. If you lost the time, if it's over, it's over. And you cannot get it back. So use every moment that you have. Create what makes you happy. And when you feel like it's draining you, make a break and then start to create again.
It's really inspirational hearing you talk about time in that way, because you're right. When it's gone, it's gone. But you can, you can re-earn money. You can, redo some of these things. But I think it's, when you think about it in the perspective of time, then, that time's gone. So therefore, that also, I feel like, as something that maybe people think of that as procrastination, because you think, oh, it's so late in my life. I'm so much older, and, oh, I should have done this when I was younger. But in some respects, your best life is waiting. You have to go for it. Like, I think there was a great Jordan Peterson quote, which I really love, which is, it's your moral obligation to go after your dreams. And he was asked on a podcast, well, what do you mean by that? Your moral obligation? He said, well, do you want to be happy, or do you want to be depressed? He said, you owe it to the people around you to show up to be the most positive version of yourself. And also the world deserves to see you like that, and the people around you. He said, or do you want depression for the people around you? He said, because that's what happens from a psychology perspective, is that if you don't, then you're sad, you're regretful, you're disappointed, and the world doesn't need any more of those people. So it's your moral obligation to go after your dreams.
I completely agree with this. I think what we don't see is how we influence other people when we are not happy. And I think also sometimes I see that with other people that want to be in my life, but they don't have my mindset or any of this mindset. Sometimes I feel like they're holding me back. Their thoughts holding me back because, I say like, I want to do this, that, da, da, da. I'm kind of an active person, and I have a lot of energy to create things in my life. And I go like, I want to do this, and people are like, oh, really? Like that sounds, I cannot. I was like, whoa, that's not good. That's not good, because I can feel this energy. But now imagine if you are this source of energy and people around you have always this negativity, this, I cannot do it, this, my life is not good. Then, especially that with children, if they would be completely happy, they would feel maybe even a little bit guilty because you cannot. So that's not good. You need to show everyone around you how happiness looks like, because in essence, you can be the role model for everyone. So if you're super happy, you create, especially when you haven't at one point, you create for other people the idea that it's possible for them too, because they know that you are not so much different to them, especially when they knew you before. And I think this is why it's your obligation. You are obligated to show other people that it's possible, and to maybe just light a little flame in them, so maybe they can do it for themselves too.
What you've done there is you're making it bigger than you. You're making it say it's the people around you, the people that you can inspire, and you owe it to people for you to show up to be your best possible version of yourself. And I love that, because that means you're inspirational, because you're going after your dreams. And two, you're lifting everybody up around you as well to say, well, you can do this as well. It's not that tough. You've got to go for it.
It's true. I mean, I'm not really the person that says it's not that tough. I say it's also tough. I want to keep it real because I don't want people that look into it. You said it wasn't tough. Yeah, it is. So there is also the working part, and I'm not lying, not to my clients, not to anyone. If you're not willing to do the work, it's not going to work. So you have to do the work. But I think that every step on this way, once you have done it and once you have leveled yourself up and you look back, you don't want to go back, not even for 1 second, because you feel that it's so different and it's so fulfilling and that you're so much happier than before. And you don't want to look back, you want to go back. And I think this is why you're doing it for yourself and at another point for others too, because they'll look at you and see like, okay, if she can do it, then maybe I can do it too.
Yeah, I'm glad you corrected me there because whatever journey you go on is tough. I don't know why I said that because that's not right. And actually, I think a lot about there's like almost a reciprocal journey, right? When you're on progression, you're trying to achieve growth, personal development, personal growth, and it starts off with pain. So you're in some sort of pain because you want something more. You start on the journey, you create some struggle because you're trying to achieve, but it's difficult. I mean, gosh, if you're on a weight loss journey, you're going to be in pain, then you're going to start, then it's going to be really painful. So you're in a struggle. And then you get failure. And then from that failure, you get feedback. And from that feedback, you get some growth. And then it starts again. Okay, cool. I've now leveled up slightly. I've got some feedback, but equally, I've got some pain and more struggle. And then it's slow. I feel like progression is this little circle that goes round and round and round, and it's tiny, just edges up, just a tiny, tiny little bit, almost at such a basic incline that you can't even notice it until you look back in 6 months and go, wow, I've gone a long way, but it felt terrible. It felt terrible along the way because there was growth and fear and struggle and failure. So I feel like it's this really slow incline of progression to get somewhere.
I always say like it's like an onion and you peel it. Like you have the first layer that's like it hurts, but then you do the circle and then you do the second layer. So you repeat the same thing basically again, but it hurts a little less and it's getting better. Then you pull the second layer, then you come to the third layer. And it's the same. Like you do it like you always try deeper, deeper, or you go higher, higher, higher. It doesn't matter however you want to see it. But in the end, it's just what you said. You go over it and over it again and again, and you improve and you improve and you improve, and whoa, suddenly it's there. And I think when you look back, this is what you said. Like when I look back, when I started, I was like, oh my God, I never want to go back there. But also, very important, you realize how far you have come. And this needs to be celebrated because I think that is something that we don't do. We think we achieve something and automatically, because we were able to achieve it, we think like, well, it wasn't so difficult. Oh no, look back at all the difficulties and all the tears and then tap yourself on the shoulder and say like, I did this. And I think this is very important that we acknowledge that too.
Yeah, I love that as well, to acknowledge yourself for the small wins and the big wins along the way. Because if you don't, then it's going to start feeling like an even bigger challenge and task and everything. But like, I think that is also, funny enough, something that we don't do enough of. I don't know why. Hey, have you got any views on why we're not celebrating the wins as much as we probably should be along the ways? And we just kind of feel like, well, yeah, why aren't we celebrating our wins enough?
For me, it's like if you do, for example, a bungee jump and you're super afraid of heights or anything, but you do it anyway, and then you did it, and then it is over, and then suddenly your mind said, oh, it wasn't that difficult. It wasn't that hard. It wasn't that super. Maybe it even said it wasn't that high. There are higher bungees. I don't know. But this is how our mind operates. Because in this moment, like we extended I say it was the sustainable pain zone. So we extended it. So now we are bigger, we grow, but our mind still wants to protect us. It wants to keep us safe so that we don't, think of, oh, now I can do everything. Like heart on, or you know, our mindsets like, yeah, I mean, it was something, but it wasn't so big. So it was just like so that you don't go crazy and think of more like things where you could die and you extend your mind or present your mind with these. And I think this is a kind of a safety mode that we drive. And our mind says like, it was okay. I mean, you did it. It's good, but it wasn't so big of a thing. But the thing is, it was so big of a thing and you knew it before you did it. So like when you stood up there and this bungee jumping thing and you looked down and it was like, oh my God, I'm so scared. It was big of a thing. And in the moment when your mind starts to tell you it wasn't that big, think of yourself when you stood up there and what you thought. And then be proud of yourself. It's so important. It's so important also for your growth because you need these moments that you see how far you have come.
Yeah, and it's almost like creating a level of evidence to your mind that you can do the thing. And because I think about this a lot, which is how much does your mind hold you back from doing something? Because you think, oh, I can't, or you have a self-limiting belief, or don't feel quite good enough, or you don't feel this, and your mind is kind of holding you back. And then once you do the thing, then suddenly you're like, oh, I can do that. That's not actually not that difficult. And we should praise ourselves more, but then we don't, and all those things. It's interesting because it's like almost, I feel like the long-term journey, more than anything else, is a battle with your own mind of to keep on going on the growth journey, or just keep going, next level, more growth. But it's a real mindset battle more than anything else.
It's completely in the mind. I think the mind is trying to just keep you in this safe zone because it knows how to operate there. And everything, every level up, the mind doesn't know how to operate. It doesn't know how to protect you. And that's just from ancient times, like when the dinosaurs and all these scary animals were behind us. Like, and we had to have this safe space where nothing could happen. So now we created in our mind the uncertainty, the insecurity, but it's not real because like, even though, for example, one of the biggest things of people that are scared of is speaking in public. So I heard that in the seminar and I really like it. So that's the second, and speaking in public is the biggest fear. So, and this speaker said something like, so you would rather be in the top than speaking at the funeral. So not for me. But the thing is, once you were on stage and once you heard, you did so good, suddenly it's like, well, what I was afraid of, it's nothing. It's just okay. But before you have maybe like hidden yourself to do that for years, for decades, for many people. So and I think this is the thing. Your mind just doesn't want you to expose yourself to any negativity or perceive negativity because you don't even know if it's going to happen. It didn't happen yet, but you're not even trying it. And this is what you have to get aware of. That whatever you're scared of, it did not yet happen. It's in your mind, and your mind is creating that scenario, but it's not yet real. And if you're not trying it, especially like speaking on stage, you're not going to die. Even if people say, boo, and you're not good, you're not going to die. So try it. Bungee jumping, different. You could die. So this is at least something that your mind has a word in. But for speaking on stage or whatever things, you're not going to die. You can try.
And it's a bit, what I've thought about on my journey a lot as well, and one of my mentors has said to me, is that it's about being comfortable, uncomfortable. So just getting more and more familiar with, okay, I'm in an uncomfortable situation, get comfortable with it. Because that's what growth is. You should be constantly in situations where you are uncomfortable because you're pushing the boundaries, you're pushing your own personal capabilities, and therefore you're going to feel uncomfortable. But the more you do it, you feel more comfortable, and then you go to the next level. I think there's a human nature in growth, us wanting more, and then trying to avoid that uncomfortable feeling of, oh, I might be an imposter, or maybe I'm out of my depth here. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you become in that uncomfortable situation. It's a funny loop.
Yeah, but I think that what helps us to maybe get out there is to realize that you're uncomfortable in the first place. Like the comfort zone, and this is why I call it the sustainable pain zone, is not comfortable. You want something, you feel the pain of not being there, so it's not comfortable. You want to escape it. And this is why I say it's a sustainable pain. It's just not uncomfortable enough that you need to do it right now. So you can still sustain the pain. So if you're not like leaving your job to create your dream life, it's because it pays your bills. It's because it gives you the imagined feeling of stability and comfort, but it's not comfortable. And once you realize that in this comfort zone is already sustainable pain, and just taking one step makes you feel uncomfortable, but you're uncomfortable already, that is a game changer because it takes away the fear or this overwhelming fear of doing the first step. Just when you realize or you allow yourself to realize you are already uncomfortable, you are not happy, to just say yes to what you already know and then try to make yourself happy. Nothing more than that.
Never heard anyone talk about sustainable pain before. Can you just elaborate on that? It's a really interesting concept.
Um, I named it this way because of toxic relationships. Because when you're, for example, in these real toxic relationships, you sustain pain and you're not leaving these relationships because you feel like you're not getting anyone else, you're not deserving of love. Maybe you stay alone for the rest of your life. Maybe you find not even a person that loves you like that. So you are in sustainable pain and you know it. So in this moment, when you are in these relationships and you're not leaving because of your fear, you know that you're not happy in these relationships. And then I thought about, okay, but actually it's the same in your business, like in your job. If you don't like your job and you stay there because it gives you this monthly income, or, then you're also in this kind of sustainable pain. It's not comfortable. It's really uncomfortable. And I don't know how many times people that are in this job or don't feel well in their body. That's another thing. Like you like are tired, drained all the time, or you are overweight. So you don't feel well in this situation and you know it. So why are we telling people this is the comfort zone? It's not comfortable there. It's uncomfortable and we know it. It's just not uncomfortable enough to make you take the next step. And this is why I call it the sustainable pain zone, because it's pain that is just so sustainable that you don't leave. And once you understand it and you stop calling it comfort zone, you start calling it what it really is, you're way more likely to do a step, because who wants to have sustainable pain over?
Yeah, I love the concept and I love what it means because it's like a dull ache. If you're not, when you're not following the things that you want to do and you're on someone else's path, you're working for a corporate or you're working in a business that you're not happy with, or you're earning money in a way that isn't true to you. It is like, I heard Cody Sanchez off recently talking about it. She said it's just like a dull ache. It doesn't feel good, but you're just doing it. You're going through the motions, you're doing the thing. And she said, she was talking about that is like a distance from you living your best, most authentic life with energy and motivation, and you're happy. Like they couldn't be further from the truth, further from each other. So it's almost like you're stopping yourself from even discovering your very best self.
Exactly. I always say, like, it's like if you're hiking and you have this little stone in your shoe. It's uncomfortable, but it's yet not uncomfortable enough to stop and take off the shoe to search for the stone. It's something like that. But after a while, if you still walk with this little stone, you will try to escape it. Like, your toes start to hurt and you will like cramp them a little bit. So you avoid the stone. And then you start to like feeling ache in your body because it's not a normal situation. So, and this is basically what happens when you're in the sustainable pain zone. You try to adjust. It's not feeling good. You feel the pain. It's not yet horrible enough to leave it, but you lose yourself, you lose your energy, you lose your happiness because your focus suddenly is on the little stone to avoid it. And this is what we do. Like, we avoid things. And then we say, like, yeah, basically, it's not so bad. It's a little stone. It's not bad. Or it's just, I mean, the job, it pays the bill, so it's not so bad. Hey, it's not so bad, but it's not what I want. So why if I'm already sustaining some pain, am I not choosing to sustain the pain of doing what I never did before and go and create myself the life that I never had before, but I wish I had?
And the interesting thing about what you're showing there is that stone, it starts off as just a tiny little niggle. And eventually over time, it's going to create a cut. You're going to be bleeding. There's going to be blood. It's only going to get worse. And then over time, gosh, if you really left it, of course, it would be infected and there'd be a whole bunch more. But, that tiny little mark at the very beginning, the analogy here is it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And, whether it's natural cut, which we're talking about physically, but what we're talking about is something far deeper, far more emotionally, but you're not following a life that is true to you. I certainly had that 4 or 5 years ago when I really went through quite severe depression. And then why was that? Well, there was something within that depression saying, you are built for something different here. You're built for something more, but you're not using what you're supposed to be doing. You're on a different plan here. Like you've got distracted. You need to really rethink. And it took me a real long time to go through that depression at 3 or 4 years to kind of come out of it and go, oh yeah, I did have a plan 20 years ago. Where did that go? But it's interesting, the analogy about the stone, it just slowly proliferates and will make things worse.
Exactly. Congratulations for escaping, by the way.
Gosh,
And
yeah.
I love that I was on a different plan. I like that because that's what it is. Because as a child, you would never think that you end up in settling for something less than everything. You cannot imagine that. So where did you lose it on your way? And this is the real question. So where did you lose this inspiration to create something that you love? Because as a child, this is what you did, like 24/7. And you were pretty like grumpy if you were supposed to do something else. Like when your parents told you need to sit here and you cannot do what you want. You're like, I don't want to do that. So where did you leave this? It's really, we need to find this back, and we need to find the courage to unpack it and to let it out and to really follow this path, because this is what it's supposed to be, and every one of us is supposed to be happy, like all the time, but most of the time at least.
But I think, what happens, but it's obviously something ingrained in childhood. I mean, I'm very fortunate. I've got two little young boys, but Logan, who's 4, you can't tell him not to do something. He's going to run around, he's going to play, he's going to do the game. You tell him not to do something that he wants to do, he's going to tell you very quickly that he's going to do the thing. And like, obviously there's rules and all those sorts of things, but I'm sort of talking more jovially all that he's going to go after. If he wants to play with that toy, he's going to play with that toy. And it's funny because as you get older, you get into your teenage years, your young adult years, I think you're met with reality somewhere along there, and it probably hits for everyone else, for everyone, where, hang on, you're beginning to be an adult, you've got to start making choices. Maybe you're not quite as good as you think you are, or actually the world's a lot more competitive than you realized. Actually, it's harder to get a job. Suddenly there's a conversation around money, which you never had when you were a child. Like you sort of get hit by society, and I feel like that's why a lot of people end up not following their dreams initially, even if they have those quite broad dreams or something. I feel like something that happens in those years there where society kind of sends you in a different direction.
I guess the first thing is you happen to be in school. This is the first event where you get judged the first time, or a judge obligated to do things that you don't want to do, like sit for, I don't know, 6 hours, 8 hours. Then you're like, you get marks, good marks or bad marks. And this defines if you are good or bad, or if you want to succeed in life or not. So, but this is our system. Like they tell you if you have bad marks, you're not going to get a job, you're not good, and you will not succeed in life. This is what they tell you. So it's a little bit of fear-based system. And maybe every one of us maybe sometimes had a bad mark in school because we didn't learn or we just didn't care. And for me, it was the I didn't care thing. So, and then I was judged based on I didn't care, and I didn't care told me that I will not succeed in life. But this is what you get continuously. Then you hear when you apply for your first job, yeah, but you don't have any experience. Yeah, I just came out of school. So how do you, And this is all these things, they just don't fit together. We don't have a system that really supports dreams and really supports individuals to create their life. So in school, we learn that we learn to get a job. No one told me you learn to create your dream life. No one told me that ever. I had to find it out for myself. And I think this is the setup that makes us doubt about so many things.
You're totally right. I'd never really thought about it in that way before. The schooling system is preparing you for work, going out and going out into the job market, getting a job, and it's preparing you for those things. It's giving you like a foundational basic skills to be able to achieve in that realm, in that world. The interesting thing was my GCSEs and my academic achievements were appalling. Like they were really low. They were very, very low in terms of, but I just didn't get on with school. And I suppose what that message was that, well, you're just not going to get on very well in your life. And it doesn't tell you at all anything about, well, 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 hang on, but I've got dreams. When are we going to sit down and talk about what's the art of the possible? Where can I actually get to? Who's there? I just remember looking around a lot when I was my early teens and also late teens when I was trying to look for opportunities. I was like, there's just no one here to talk to about this. And then you say, oh, I want to do this dream, or I want to do that. There's that. It's interesting. There's just no support for it whatsoever, which I think feel like that's why sometimes dreams get put on the back burner. And then, you go off and you get a job and, different things happen, don't they?
I think that we are not even set up to realize that it's possible or that we're supposed to do. Because I think that I thought I was supposed to get a job until the moment when I realized that's not for me. And that happened pretty fast because I understood I think it was even in the practice time that I did time of school, I realized that 9 to 5, that doesn't really work for me. I mean, I can do it, but I don't like it. So I was like basically from my first practical job, that wasn't a job like, the 1 month where you just try something. That was when I was set up myself for, I'm not made for this world. I think I don't fit in because this doesn't work for me. I felt it didn't match who I am and what I wanted to do. Doesn't mean that I didn't try it in some way to have a job, but what I tried was to escape the 9 to 5 plan. I always tried to have something where I have flexibility because I knew that was more me. So maybe I always was a little bit of a revolutionary. I don't know. It could be. But when I look back right now, I think I never 100% gave in to all these rules. I was always like, yeah, but that doesn't feel good. That doesn't make me happy. But as long as I didn't have another way in place, or even the idea that there was another place, I was doing it because I didn't know what else to do. But this moment when I saw an opportunity to improve, I went for this. I left it all and said, okay, that's not for me. I'm doing this right now. So yeah, until a moment when I said like, hey, well, I don't need a job at all. I can maybe create this thing for myself. And so this was my entrepreneurial start, which happened quite early.
Yeah, well, I love that. I really love that. There's so much strength and empowerment in the words that you have and kind of what you're sharing of people can go and achieve far more. That I've really loved talking to you today. It's been really fantastic. If someone wants to know more about you, Tina, get in contact, work with you, and so they can start creating their dream life, what's the best way of getting in contact?
Best is to visit my website. It's www.tinaenglish, like it's TINAENGLISCH.com, or on social media, like my handle is Tina English on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, Tina, thank you so much. That's been really empowering, very inspiring. I'm fully motivated, and I'm sure our listeners are as well. So, yeah, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.